Yeah, early on I saw it was brief, so I continued to ask the Lord just for clarity. But it was like almost like two mountains. The shape of the mountains weren't apart from each other, though. It was like
Adjacent to one another.
they were almost like coming together against each other.
Oh.
So these were forces, almost like a tectonic plate, like the movements. There's a collision that's happening, and so, in fact, they were already pressing against one another, and then I saw, almost like a single individual that was in between them, trying to get through and above to go above these two opposing forces. And so it was upon more reflection, the Lord showed me that these are very ancient opposing forces. So, but they have more contemporary applications, but the roots of the different forces are very old in terms of the work of God, the struggle of the called or anointed ones, and the culmination of God's work. So, in modern vocabulary, we have on the surface the opposing forces within Christianity and the religious doctrines. One is the gospel of the prosperity gospel, and the other is the gospel that is powerless. So, so we have one that claims power, and one that denies the power of God, but both promote the message of God. And so these are also anciently rooted in what appear to be, they are both negative forces because they're coming in to put the squeeze on God's purpose.
That's right.
In man through the Son. But they are, so we see those most of the time as almost like forces that they are both against God's purpose, but we see them almost many times parallel to one another, and so nobody was prepared for those two things to clash into each other.
Oh, okay. To forge together.
Right. Well, not to come. They oppose each other.
Oh, colliding with.
So there's a collision there. We see they were both against God's purpose,
yes.
but there was never the recognition that they were even in themselves opposing.
Yes.
And so, this is Egypt and Babylon.
Yes.
And
that's
so,
what I'm thinking about as well. Yes.
We have the things that God is calling His people out of both, from the pressures that they both bring to that. But there are cultures behind each, and those cultures they're not even colliding so much with God's because His is above all. But they will cause a great.
To me, it's like a
eruption between the two.
Yeah, to me it's like a person canal, This is things that God ordained for the birthing of His remnant people. So
right.
Anyway,
so as I was thinking about the ancient nature of those, Isaiah and the Lord in Isaiah describes Egypt as Rahab, the do-nothing, the powerless God. And it's always, you talk about the chariots and all this, is always about the reliance on those ways, the strength of man, the ideas of man, the kingdoms of man, the governments of man. But then we also have that coming in full opposition to and as an opposing force against God's purpose with Babylon, which is the pomp and the pride of religion. And so this is this massive clash of cultures. So. And it encompasses all mankind.
Israel is in between.
Right.
Yeah, so Canaanites, the land Canaan. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah. You have those two that
Mhm.
Jerusalem and everything around her.
Yes.
You know.
But lure, something to press.
Right. So in the midst of that, you have well, interestingly too, you have the river that flows through the midst of Jerusalem, and
Yeah.
you have the north side and the south side, and the
Yeah, there's a divide there. Yeah.
you know, the Dead Sea below,
Oh yeah.
and you know the source of
Yeah.
the waters above.
In between the
In a sense.
desert and the sea.
But anyway, that was this is the clash of the cultures.
You hear me, Noah? In between the desert, the wilderness, the sea, the ocean. Yeah, the vision about that. So. Go ahead.
So that was a vision. So.
Oh, okay. I do know you got two. Each one of you have some vision. Go ahead.
I saw a transparent or translucent, like a film. It's like a thin barrier. Think of like a sheet of like saran wrap or something. Something you could clearly see through it, but it was clear that there was something there.
Okay.
Not glass.
Yes.
It's flexible, almost rubbery. And I didn't see the context of around it, but it was this large barrier, and then a spear was thrust at it, with clearly with the purpose to be thrust through it.
Okay.
But all it did was the further the spear thrust, the more it stretched. And so the spear was pushing, and it was stretching tighter and tighter and tighter, as though it was going to, even though it was a sharp spear.
It used wrong tool in that. I'm just talking. I'm thinking loud myself. So,
yeah, and it got to the point. It seemed to get to the point of like maximum
Tension.
The word that I heard was breaking point. There's a breaking point, and it's like at the very, like almost the limit of. I didn't see who was thrusting the spear. I just saw the spear, but it was like I could tell it was like at the limit of the strength to thrust the spear was when I knew it would give way and it would break through.
Oh, break through.
But it was, but this film, this rubbery film was providing far more resistance than you would think, against something that's sharp and thrusted at it. It would not give, and it was actually the further it was pushed, the more it was holding tight and pushing back.
Yes.
But my impression was that it was reaching that apex point that it would pierce through, and then the film would be nothing.
But nothing. Yeah.
You know, just
nothing. Yeah, that's basically traditions man. The Lord used the word traditions man. In their day was teaching the Pharisees, Sadducees, you know, these things that hugely embedded in the understanding of the disciples. He has to have them break off that. In our day will be the traditions by the same spirit, but different application. In man has the same way, whether it be intellectual. I mean, some highly honored traditions, even institutions, that was never God to begin with. So, but we have a hard time because we don't misuse God's name. We want to be or critical in a sense. So we just allow it to continue the condition of where we're supposed to be. And therefore we're not freed. And there were no freedom on the other side what it means. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, that's the way. That's the only way in God. Okay. No, go ahead.
In the first vision, I saw what looked like this fortress that had been built into a barren mountain. It was just solidly made of rock. There were no living things. I think it may have been abandoned as well, but it was built into, especially the upper part of the mountain. So the fortress itself kind of went in this or a cone or a triangular like shape. And then in the vision, the interesting part is that I saw, not in a destructive way, but more in like a revealing way. It was cut in half, the fortress was. and you could see inside. It was almost disappointing because instead of it being hollow to where it could actually be functioned through and with the fortress, it was solid stone. There was nothing in there, so it's almost like the very outside was just kind of this carving on the outside.
It's for show or something.
Yeah, like but more of a presentation, like almost like a step, like I don't know, a sculpture or something.
Oh, okay.
And the inside was as if nothing had ever been, like had never been
Built.
dug into or
Okay,
delved
yeah.
into.
It's basically uninhabitable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a form of fortress, but it cannot serve any purpose. Nobody
Right.
can stay there, right?
Yeah, it's not livable.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was
Well, that is a human religion. So.
That was one vision, and then I saw one other one afterwards. It kind of came together in pieces, even though it is originally a short vision. I basically just saw somewhat of a stormy ocean. And the really interesting part is that in my vision, I saw that it almost zoomed up to one of the waves in this ocean. Of course, they disappear and come up other places, but it kind of stopped in time and went up to the crest of one of these waves. And on the top of this crest, you could see on like almost a spot this big, the water of this part of the wave. If you look really close at it and slow down time, it almost revealed like a whole nother ocean of waves in this smaller spot. So it looked really interesting. I don't know if it's even realistic at all, but if you think about it, but that's what I saw in the second vision.
Well, that's interesting. It's speaking about us. The whole thing in the cross speaking about God's work across the spectrum of human history. And that, so you see a sand, you see the whole world, something in the flower or whatever, the universe or something like that. I don't remember who wrote that beautiful picture. So a flower universe, a sand in the world, or something in the palm of your hand, something like that. I can recite that one. Beautiful poem.